And welcome back, everybody. This is Pucks from the Pine Tree Pod. I'm your host, Benjamin Kennedy. Thank you so much for joining us again today. I am super excited to welcome in Sam Smith, host of the Black and Gold podcast over at Black and Gold Productions. Sam, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you, Ben? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, doing quite well. Definitely happy to have you on. So we're going to talk about maybe our favorite topic, the Boston Bruins. How
Yeah.
about that? How about that? Of course, coming off kind of a what do we call it? A lackluster effort last night. Do we call it an effort last night?
Ah, I don't know. That was something else. That was pathetic, if to
Yeah,
put it lightly.
it was a hard watch. It was nice to see hockey back in Quebec City. But yeah, in terms of the on the ice, yeah, left a lot to be desired.
Yeah, it was just
But
I don't know. There was not a lot there.
yeah, yeah. Well, as I do with my season previews, first of all, before we get into it, just share a little bit about yourself and kind of who you are and what you're up to.
Well, I have a lot of stuff going on. Well, first of all, my name's Sam. I am a well, first of all, I'm a college student. I'm in college, junior at Dean College down here in South Mass, going for broadcasting. I'm also a content creator. Besides the podcast with Mark and over at Black and Gold, I do my own stuff on my own channel. I'm covering the Bruins every night, doing my own play-by-play to all the games, and it's fun, man. It's you know, it's just it's pretty crazy right now, but yeah, that's my life pretty much.
That's awesome. I've checked out your live stream a couple times for some of the preseason games, and I would
Right.
just recommend anybody looking for, if you're not into, listening to the commentating during the game, pop the game on, go over to Sam's channel, check him out during some of those games because, yeah, you have a lot of fun with it, and your audience seems to really enjoy it too.
Yeah, they do. They're the best.
Yeah. Great. Well, let's dive into the Boston Bruins, starting with head coach Jim Montgomery. Of course, he between Dallas and Boston, 278 games coached, a 172, 75, and 30 record, 673 winning percentage. Yeah, pretty damn good there. Playoffs, 16 and 17, of course, as we know, and going all the way back to 2017. Of course, NCAA champion coach at the University of Denver, and not to be forgotten, all the way back in the mid 90s when he played up here at the University of Maine. Uh, Legend, winning a championship there. I think he had a hat trick in the third period of that game to solidify the championship. So, yeah, if he ever comes back to Orono, stakes on us, right? He's a legend. So, just your thoughts on Coach Montgomery, what how he's performed so far, um, and of course, he's last year of his contract.
Yeah, I mean, first 2 years of the Jim Montgomery experience has been pretty good for the most part. I mean, obviously those numbers there. I mean, 170 plus wins. I mean, come on, this guy has been insane. Uh, was that number including the playoffs?
No, that's just regular season.
Okay, so yeah, let's see, he's gotten like 100 plus wins with the Bruins as the head coach of them. Uh, it's been pretty fun. He's especially that season 2 years ago. That was a really fun year until it ended so suddenly. But Montgomery is a head coach. I'll tell you what. The only problem that I have with him is that he shakes up the lines too much during the games. As a head coach, he's a player's coach. He advocates for his guys, which something that I haven't seen since Julian. I don't think Cassidy did that a whole ton.
Mm,
Not a knock at Bruce Cassidy, but he just was the coach. Montgomery was a player's first coach. I think, getting out of the first round last year really helped his case for getting a contract because first year you get knocked out in the first round, and then there was a little bit of improvement getting to the second round last year. But this is the final year of his contract now, so now you're thinking about, okay, if we're not going to bring this guy back, then who's next? And I don't think the Bruins have started even thinking about that. So as long as there is definite improvement from a coaching standpoint from last year to this year, which I think there's going to be, especially with having Jay Leach back there. I think the Bruins will be bringing back Jim Montgomery. I don't have a problem with him. The only issue I have with him, as I said earlier, is him shaking up the lines too much during the games. Like one night there was, I think the second line was Coyle, Marchand, and Jake DeBrusk back when he was with the Bruins. And then it ended up by the end of the night, DeBrusk was playing on the left wing, and he was playing with Zacha. And then Pastrnak was bumped down to Marchand and Coyle, and then it was DeBrusk, Coyle, and Geeky were the first line. Or whatever it was, DeBrusk, Zacha, Geeky, or whatever. Like that, to me, that just did not, I don't know, it didn't sit well with me. So if he can hold back on doing that as much, then I think he'll be the long-term coach of this team for sure.
We all remember Game 5 against Florida 2 years ago.
Right.
The lines he put out there. Of course, we had the guys coming back. Brazeau came back. Krejci came back. But
Right.
the lines he put out there for that game were lines that had really never played together all year.
No.
And of course, he fixed it, but it was a little too late. You know, kind of halfway through the game, he kind of resorted the lines. But you're right. He tends to move those around a lot and probably too much, you know, to not allow that real chemistry to set in sometimes. I go back to his first year when oftentimes, you know, post game, he'd be like, I don't even feel like I have to coach this team. Like he would kind of chuckle about it, right? It was just kind of surreal, the run they were on. And then, of course, after they lose, you're in that kind of end of year meeting or media session that they had with, you know, Cam Neely and Jacobs and everybody up there. He talked about learning lessons. Like I learned a lot of lessons this year. And it's like, all right, you learned the lessons. Make sure you apply those lessons
Right.
next season.
Exactly.
And I feel like last year you saw more animation from him. You saw, I think, more coaching without Bergeron out there, without Krejci out there. So I do think he elevated himself a bit. And like you said, hopefully we see more of that this year.
Yeah, I think he became more of a hands-on coach from 2 years ago to this past year. I think losing guys like David Krejci and Patrice Bergeron, you're going to have to start putting in some more effort as the coach because you had Bergeron and Krejci along with Marchand and even Pastrnak and McAvoy to kind of help guide the younger guys or to kind of be the leaders of the team. You don't have half your leadership core now. So now you have to kind of be more of a hard-assed, you know, head coach, and it got them farther. So I think I kind of want to see more of that, keeping guys grounded, you know, keeping them humble. And I think if they can do that and, you know, it keeps them grounded, keeps them level-headed, I think they're going to be a dangerous team, especially with hopefully a certain somebody getting a contract coming soon.
Oh, yeah, we'll probably talk about that here in a few minutes. And I also, like you said, having Jay Leach over here now, I think is going to go miles for this team. An actual defensive coach, someone who knows the organization. So I think he's going to be a big help. Yeah, so first round this year, we actually had a first-round pick. I don't know if we've had a first-round pick since you've been alive, Sam. So this was really fun.
It's been a long time. You know, the last before we traded for ours this past year, but the last one we didn't trade was that 21 for Lascelles. Was that the last time?
I think so. I think you might be right.
It's been a minute because the only first round picks that I really remember was Sagan, DeBrusk, Zaboral, Senyshyn, and then Pastrnak, and now Lascelles. Because I don't even think Swayman was a first round pick. Was he not?
No. He was third or fourth round.
Yeah. So the only ones I remember were Sagan, Pastrnak, DeBrusk, Senyshyn, Zaboral, and Lascelles, and now of course Letourneau. So it's been a long time. So let's hope if they are going to be content, let's not trade that first round pick this year. That would be good because it would continue the tradition. Because a few years ago they traded it for Hampus Lindholm. 2 years ago they traded it for Bertuzzi, and then somehow we get it back in a weird trade tree type thing, and then so. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Letourneau? Go ahead.
Look, I think Letourneau, if you put up 130 points in 50, 60 games, I don't care what league you're in. That's impressive. Now he's playing for BC. It's his freshman year at BC. I expect him to get at least 2 years, maybe 3 in BC. Look, you're in a competitive market. Hockey East is probably the best college hockey, conference in the country when it comes to competition. So a lot of our prospects are in or with Boston College. So Adam McQuaid and the scouts are going to have their hands full, because if they have Letourneau and Jelvik, and there's somebody else that's at Boston College. It's not on the top of my head right now.
Yeah, I can't think of it.
Yeah, but Letourneau and Jelvik are the two big ones. If you have those guys there, that's going to be some eyeballs that you need to have. So, yeah, I'll be watching some Boston College games this year to kind of see how they're doing in their development and their growth. But hey, Letourneau's a big guy, puts up points in bunches. I think he needs to fill out a little more. 6'6", but 215. I just think he needs to bulk up, kind of even out his size. But I only heard good things out of him in development camp. Because he was there with the rest of the rookies, and I only heard good things about him. So, hey, if he develops and turns into a middle six guy down the line in the next 4, 5, 6 years, it's worth it.
My big takeaway is, of course, bigger guys tend to struggle with agility, with skating, and all the reports were the kid knows how to skate.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually quite agile for a big guy, uses those strides really well. So right there, I think he's already kind of ahead of that curve, despite him being a little bit raw coming out. Knowing that he's got that skating ability is quite promising.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's only 18, and he's gonna be, and he's already fast. He kind of reminds me, when it comes to his speed and game, kind of like a Trent Frederick in a way. Like he's like, I watched some of his stuff. He has the speed because Frederick's fast. He has the skill as well. The wrist shot's lethal. If you get him off the rush, watch out. That's the type of player Letourneau is, and I think Letourneau is going to be a really solid prospect down the line, as long as he develops properly. And I think Boston College has a pretty good track record of doing that. So I think he's in good hands with BC.
No, I agree. I think they're number 1 right now in all the polls.
They're ranked really high, so don't be surprised if we see them in the Frozen Four.
Yeah, as long as they just take it easy on my Black Bears this year, right? We're coming back. We're gonna come for you a little bit, but we'll see how that all goes. Well, looking back to last season, of course, the Bruins were 47, 20, and 15. 15 overtime losses, 109 points. Second, of course, in that Atlantic Division. 15 overtime losses. I think that was second in the league. I think was it the Islanders and Montreal? I think both had 16.
Ugh.
So just how many of those just 1-goal games were we losing? But of course, as we all remember, lost in that second round to the Florida Panthers. And like you said earlier, got one round further than the year prior. But just before we dive into this coming year, just some thoughts from you on last season, just big picture.
Well, look, it was supposed to be a development year. It was supposed to be a kind of a down year for the Bees, and they exceeded everybody's expectations. They exceeded my expectations. I didn't even think, when I looked at the roster, I didn't even think they were even a playoff team last year. If you looked at kind of how their roster was set up, I mean, losing Bertuzzi and Orlov and Nosek and Hathaway, that was going to hurt, and it kind of did in certain departments, especially the physicality, which I think they got better with going into this upcoming year. But for what they got and what they had, they made, for lack of a better term, I don't know what my swearing parameters are, but chicken salad out of chicken shit. They put together a hell of a team, and they got to the second round of the playoffs. That was something that I did not expect. Especially, I didn't even expect them making the playoffs to begin with. So the fact they got out of the first round and the way they did against Toronto, backs against the wall, trying to bounce back and trying to, shake off the demons and the cobwebs of last year, of the year previous. not trying to choke a 3-1 lead.
Hmm.
Game 7 going to overtime, but then they score this time, and then they go to Florida and put up a hell of a series. Look, what can you do? What can you say, you know? For a down year, pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, my official pick last year was Blues in the second round. So they actually completely hit the expectation I had for them. I didn't think they would fall off the map completely like so many people did. And the key was going to be Coyle and Zaka. And how are they going to do without Bergeron, without Krejci being there? And they did good enough. They did good enough to get to the second round. Not good enough to be a Stanley Cup champion, but I thought both those guys really elevated their games. And of course, you had the beautiful goalie tandem that we unfortunately no longer have. But quick look at their team stats from a year ago. They were 3.21 in the goals for category. That was 13th in the league. Goals against 2.7, tied for fifth, plus 42 on the differential. So again, defense, goaltending really stood on their heads. We know where the power play was, kind of middle of the pack, 22.2%.
Mm.
That was 14th. PK, of course, was quite good, 82.5, tied for sixth. And they did struggle at that faceoff dot, which definitely cost them in that
Yeah.
Florida series, 49.5%. That was 21st in the league. So, yeah, those numbers, you look at them, sounds like a team that's going to lose in the second round.
I mean, well, especially the face-off dot. I mean, Zaka was not amazing at the dot last year. I mean, he was fine, but I'm glad they got Elias Lindholm because he's better at the dot than Zaka is. Coyle had a down year at the dot. Coyle had like the worst face-off percentage among among like consistent centers on this team,
Mhm.
which surprised me. Especially the fact that Coyle was like one of the best face-off men in the NHL like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So
You think about it, though, he was third line, and last year he was more for a second line, so probably facing some tougher matchups too.
well, yeah, but still, like even in the Florida series 2 years ago when Bergeron was down, you had Coyle be the top center,
Mhm.
and he was still like 65% of the dot against Barkov.
Yeah.
And Barkov's one of the best face-off guys in the league too. So if you like it just I don't know, it seemed off. I don't know. Hopefully he worked on that over the summer because he's still the second line center now.
Yeah.
Because they have Elias Lindholm now who has done some good things in the preseason, but
Mhm.
but I think Coyle needs to be better at the dot. It's the only down part of his game last year. He had the best season of his career last year from the stat sheet.
Mhm.
But I think the face-off needs to be better. But yeah, I mean, goals against. Look, Bruins had one of the best defenses in the NHL last year, and I think they only got better with adding Nikita Zadorov. Especially if you're losing, no offense, Derek Forbort and Matt Grzelcyk. I mean, push them out.
Right.
Forbort was kind of he had bricks for skates, if that makes any sense. He kind of he can't skate well. Matt Grzelcyk was just too small for this Bruins defensive core. But look, if you add Zadorov and you keep Lohrei, who's going to be developing in his second year in the league, first full season in the league, Wotherspoon's still your seventh defenseman. You have McAvoy, who's going to try to have a bounce back year. Carlo coming off the best season of his career last year.
Mhm.
Andrew Peeke, who's a solid defenseman, who has term, he was here through the end of not this season, but next season.
Right.
Your defensive core, you know what? I'm going to say it. The Bruins' defense looks like it could be the best in the National Hockey League on paper.
I tend to agree with you. I mean, I'd have to look at a few others to see where I would rank them. But yeah, I think definitely top five. And you're right. I think they have a chance to be the best unit out there. I have just go back to 3 or 4 years ago. I remember I was watching a game one night. I was texting a buddy, and it was one of those games where we were just getting destroyed. And we had all these 5'10", 5'11" defensemen out there. And I just remember saying to my buddy, like, I am so sick and tired of how small we are defensively. Like this, we've got to get back to getting some size.
Right.
Taken us a few years, but yeah, I mean, Peak is not a small kid. You got Zadorov out there, of course. We know Coyle is not Coyle, but Carlo is was he 6'5", 6'6". So yeah,
yeah.
a big unit, and kind of leads us into looking at those key departures and additions over the year. Of course, out the door, we know Linus Allmark, Jacob Lauko,
Mhm.
Patty Maroon, of course, was a rental. Danton Heinen, that one stung a little bit. That one I was a little surprised at.
Yeah, I did not like losing Heinen. I still don't like it. Um, he's just he was versatile. Like people crap on Heinen. I don't understand why people crapped on him. He was good up and down the lineup, and like if he was needed on the first line, he excelled. If he was needed on the fourth line, he was great. He kind of found himself on the third line for most of last year, but when he was with Zacha and Pasternak for that bit of time, it was pretty good. I think, man, I really kind of wish that they kept Heinen around. You know, but then again, we wouldn't have had gotten either Lindholm or Zadorov. Like one of the two wouldn't have been here, and they needed both. But like, I don't know, just my personal feeling. I wish they kind of kept Heinen around because Heinen is a very, very useful player.
Yeah,
So
I mean, Swiss Army knife, like you said, could play up and down the lineup,
right,
responsible defensively. Yeah, I'm with you. I wish we could have kept him around, but he got paid a little bit extra to go out to Vancouver to join, of course, Jake DeBrusk and Derek Forbert out there. And of course, we know Jesper Boquist also out the door off to Florida. So a fair amount of movement there. Of course, we know coming in this year, Jonas Corposalo, Mark Kastelik from that Ottawa trade, Vinny Lettieri, the aforementioned Zadorov and Elias Lindholm, both coming over from Vancouver. And kind of a couple of the last big names, Max Jones comes over from, was it Anaheim?
Anaheim, yeah,
Anaheim. And then, of course, we have Tyler Johnson on the PTO. So
right.
outside of Zadorov and Lindholm, what do you like there with that group coming in?
Okay. At first, I wasn't super thrilled about getting Mark Kastelik, but based off what I've seen in the preseason, Kastelik's the kind of player that I would like that I'd fall in love with. Like he's like Sean Thornton. He throws the body and is physical and is not afraid to drop the gloves and fight. And I think that if you add a guy like Kastelik, that's only going to help you with what their identity is now, and that's big, bad Bruins. I think they've gotten back to that a little bit. We've seen it a bunch in the preseason. Jones and Kastelik being, the main guys of that, and also Trent Frederick. And of course, defensively, I mean, Wotherspoon has gotten nasty. Zadorov's getting nasty a little bit last night. Hey, look, if they want to get back to that identity, it's a perfect time to, because you've gotten your ass kicked by Florida the last 2 years. You need something. And I think the one thing that they had beat over Boston was the forecheck and the physicality. I think they got better at that, because if you put Max Jones with Johnny Beecher and Justin Brazeau on that fourth line, or hell, Kastelik instead of Brazeau on that fourth line, forechecking and physicality is going to be an absolute nightmare down there. Absolute nightmare. You're not going to want to face them. So if you add Jones and Kastelik, that's pretty good. Tyler Johnson, let's take a look at Tyler Johnson, right? Two-time champ.
Mm-hmm.
A veteran PTO. Has been there, has done that. And he plays well with these guys. On that top power play unit with Elias Lindholm and David Pasternak and McAvoy and Zacha, Johnson looks like he fits right in. That goal he had against Philly on Tuesday, where it was
the power play goal, right?
Right, that power play goal, that tic-tac-toe from Pasternak to Zacha to Johnson, that looked like that was for something that's been building for years off those three. And they've only known each other, been on teammates for 2-3 weeks. So he looks like he's a natural fit. And if Fabian Lysell does not make the roster, Tyler Johnson has a strong case to be in the top 6. He has a strong case. And I think adding a guy like him will only help you, because he's like a Danton Heinen. He can play up and down the lineup and play well. If you need him in the top line, he'll play fine. If you need him in the third or fourth line, he'll fit there and he'll excel there too. Same with Morgan Geekie. Is another guy we can add into that conversation. But Tyler Johnson for sure is somebody that I would want to keep around. And I would be shocked if the Bruins released him from this PTO. I would be genuinely surprised.
No, I agree. I think that he is fitting so well. I mean, again, veteran guy, like you said, been there, done that, knows how to play in different situations, and kind of leads us into that question about that second line. You've got Coyle and Marchand. Who's going to join them? Well, you just mentioned, is it Lysell? Is it Tyler Johnson? Is it Morgan Geekie? If it was your pick, who are you putting on that second line right now?
Every player that could possibly go into that situation has made a case.
Mhm.
It's hard, right? Fabian Lysell has had a great preseason. You know, he didn't have a great game last night, but neither did anybody. So that's I'm not going to knock that on him. Morgan Geekie has played with Coyle and Marchand before, and they've played well together.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Johnson looks like he's trying to earn himself a roster spot, and I think he's got it. I think it's Johnson's to lose at this point.
Yes, I think you're right.
But there's another player that I've been seeing. Actually, there's two more players that I'm seeing. Trent Frederic. And the reason why I'm saying Trent Frederic is because he and Coyle have played together. Those three have played together. They were actually together in that Florida series. Game 3, it was Marchand, Coyle, Frederic. Because they had DeBrusk playing with Zacha and Pasternak in Game 3. They put up a +2 in that game as a line. Okay, that looks pretty good. Mm-hmm. So why not give it a shot? If you put Trent Frederic with Coyle and Marchand, I think it'll give some stability to Coyle. And because if Coyle's waved out of the draw, Trent Frederic can come right in because Frederic's technically a center.
Right, he is.
So he can come in. Another player, and Parker from Black and Gold said this on many occasions, and I'm starting to see it, Justin Brazeau. I'm starting to see it. He's a goal scorer. For his size and his game, he should not be able to maneuver the puck and handle it the way he can. The dekes are unreal for his size, and his scorer's touch is out of this worldly for a guy who's built like Brazeau. And his speed is getting better too, because he scored 2 goals in the preseason and he's looked faster too.
Yeah,
Brazeau as a second line right wing might not be that bad of an option, Ben. But look, if I had to choose right now, it's Tyler Johnson. But I would not be opposed to any of those 5 that I just named. If it's Fabian Lysell, great, he's finally getting a shot. If it's Morgan Geekie, that's fine. Geekie can fill in perfectly. Frederic would be great because they've already played together for years with Coyle. Tyler Johnson would be great because of, all that I've named, like his natural fit. But Justin Brazeau, that's my underdog, dark horse pick. Brazeau has had a really good preseason for sure.
Yeah, we'll give credit to Parker on that one. But yeah, I think Brazeau definitely caught some people off guard. Not just us as fans, but I think some guys in the league as well. Like, who is this big guy and how can he move like that? It's amazing. It was just a couple of years ago. He was down here in Maine playing in ECHL.
His rise to stardom has been insane. Like the goal he had in Game 1 against Florida, where he was down on his knees and he had to get that in the net. That is something that a fourth liner should not be able to do.
Oh, exactly.
He is not a fourth liner. Hey, look, if Morgan and Geekie were to get that second line right wing role, I would put, if Patra is ready for opening night, Patra, Frederic on the left side, Justin Brazeau on the right side. I don't think Brazeau is a fourth liner anymore. I just don't think he is. He's had a phenomenal preseason. He's exceeded my expectations, Ben.
Yeah, and he's definitely not a fourth line guy. His game doesn't, even though he's a bigger guy, his game is not a rough and tumble fourth line, gonna go just hit anything that moves, right? He has more of that skill, like you just referenced. So yeah, it should be interesting to see what Monty does. And as we know, he's gonna probably try all of them at some point, just the way he moves and shuffles things around, right? So,
yes, of course.
Right. Well, elephant in the room, Jeremy Swayman. Where in the world are we with Jeremy Swayman? Does anybody know?
Look, I'm looking ahead now. Look, because opening nights in 4 days. Swayman's not going to be the starter opening night. They're not going to put him in there cold turkey. Because let's say he signs from now until Tuesday, anytime in between that. Let's say he signs a contract. He's not ready. He hasn't been on the ice since the captain's practice. He's not ready for that. This is a mess. This is an absolute mess. This should have been solved months ago. I was saying on my stream on Tuesday, this Swayman saga should have been over before they even thought about trading Ullmark. Because they knew they were going to run into this. They knew it. Because what people are saying is right. The Bruins gave Swayman more leverage by trading Ullmark. Because now he's their only guy as the solidified starter. Because it's not Korpisalo. Although he's been great this preseason. Mm-hmm. Not a starter. That's Swayman. And the fact you don't have him signed is worrisome for sure. This whole situation is a cluster. Everybody is to blame here. The Bruins are to blame. Mm-hmm. Swayman's to blame. Gross is to blame. Everybody's handled this so unprofessionally and so outlandish. Like, they just don't know what they're doing. What are we doing here? I'm asking the same questions. What the hell is going on?
I think, too, that the other thing that the Bruins should have been prepared for is Louis Gross. Yeah. They know this guy. They know how he operates. They know how he manages clients. They absolutely should have been prepared for this kind of fight, for this kind of drag out. And to your point, you trade Ullmark, man, you just give all that leverage over to Swayman and to Louis Gross in this situation. You wonder if they just thought that for whatever reason they were going to get it done quicker and they were closer with their numbers, and maybe they really actually were, because clearly they've been way off most of the summer. Is 8 times 8? I mean, is that in your mind a fair number for Jeremy Swayman?
Absolutely. The fact he hasn't taken that is nuts to me. I think that's perfectly fair. I think he proved that he's a playoff goalie last year. All the stuff coming out about him writing some things down after the arbitration, saying that he wasn't proven in the playoffs. Check. He is. I'll give him that. He is definitely proven.
Sure.
Not being worthy. Check. He's proven that. Look, if he's not willing to take an 8x8, which is, by the way, one of the largest goalie contracts the Bruins would have ever handed out. If he's not willing to take that, I'm sorry, dude. What are we doing? He wants 9. Is that what the number is? I think he wants 8.5 to 9 million now.
I think what I heard, and I make it this wrong, I think Elliot Friedman had reported that he started at around 9.5. Was kind of his initial ask. And that maybe he has come down to more of the high 8s, like 8.75 or 8.8, something like that.
And that's, I think 8.75 would be fine. I'm not willing to go over 9. Not at all. I'm not willing to go past 9.
Yeah.
I'm just not. If he really wanted to be here, and I've been saying this, he would go into business for himself. Tell his agent to screw off. I'm going to go do this myself.
Yeah.
Kind of like what William Nylander did.
I was just going to say that.
Right.
Yeah.
So Nylander was also under Louis Gross's management. And Nylander said, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to go do this for myself. Had a meeting with Dubas and signed a contract in the same meeting.
Got it done.
1 meeting is all it took. I'm pretty sure Swayman can do that. I'm pretty sure he can.
He can. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think that if they were to put their egos aside and get this done, then go for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Swayman needs to take a step back, get that meeting just alone with, Neely, with Sweeney, and I think that a lot more progress happens.
Right.
Because you do wonder how much of this, it's a question I asked on one of my episodes a couple episodes ago, is how much of this is Swayman or how much of this is actually Lewis Gross just trying to play the games. And I think it's probably more Gross. I mean, that's his track record, man. This is what he does. And like you said, though, everybody's a little bit to blame here. Um,
Mhm.
I do think it gets done. People need to remember he's an RFA. He's not a UFA.
Right.
You know, if the crazy world scenario happens and they trade him, well, the Bruins will get just a treasure trove coming back for him. And I don't think we get there at all. I think it's all the speculation you see on social media and stuff. I think cooler heads are going to prevail. Give it a few days. 8 times 8, 8 times 8.5. I think we're done and we're good. And can we just then stop talking about it? Holy
Yeah.
smokes.
The minute this contract gets signed, I am going to throw a freaking party and start playing Cool in the Gang Celebration. Start singing Hallelujah, because I'm tired. I have been hearing so much stuff since June about, oh, Swayman's going to get signed. Oh, no, he's not. Oh, yes, he is. Oh, no, he's not. I'm done with it. I'm done. Because the minute that Elliot Friedman or the Bruins or somebody says Swayman and Bruins agreed to 8-year contract, thank God.
I completely agree with you on that.
Tired. I'm
Cannot
just
wait.
tired.
I know it's so exhausting. We haven't even dropped the damn puck yet.
I know.
It's like, what are we doing here? Well, let's move on and talk about Captain Brad Marchand or
Mhm.
Marchand. Few surgeries this season, this off season, getting up there in age. What are your expectations for Brad?
A bounce back year. I think, last year he was battling some injuries. We didn't see the same play that we saw out of Marchand. I think he was, kind of reserved because of his injuries and stuff like that. I think we're going to see more progression. Not progression. There's not really much to progress anymore, but I think we're going to see a lot of the old Brad, not in the sense of being cheap and dirty, but I think his game, I think his offensive game is going to bounce back. I think we're going to be back towards what was Brad Marchand's numbers a few years ago. I think if we can get 70 out of Brad, I think, man, 70 points out of Brad Marchand, I think it'll prove that he's still got much to give. As you said, he's older. It's his second year as captain. He's going to have to be the voice of the locker room, the leader of the locker room. And I think with that, I think his game is going to improve. He's playing with Coyle, who he's played with for now his second season now with Coyle. I think he'll play fine with whoever he gets as his right wing, whether it's LaSalle or Johnson or Geeky or Frederick or whoever. I think that'll be fine. I think Marchand will still put up good numbers. He just has to stay healthy, stay out of the box, stay out of the hair of the Department of Player Safety. I think don't get yourself suspended. Please don't get suspended. Or fined or anything stupid. Don't do anything dumb. Don't do anything that you wouldn't you wouldn't tell your kids to do. Don't start picking fights for no reason. Now, if it's justified, go for it. But
there you go.
but don't start it. Don't start the fire. Make sure the fire is started first before you start, going and being Brad Marchand. But I think his offensive numbers will improve. I think he's going to be back to what we were seeing a couple years ago. And if we can get 20, 25 goals out of Brad, bunch of assists, setting up Coyle, setting up that power play, I think we're going to be back to what we were. And I think that's a good thing for Brad. I think if we can get 60, 70 points out of him, it's a good year.
Yeah, I think we're going to need that too if this team is going to go too far in the playoffs. And of course, he's on an expiring contract too. We don't really have to talk about that today. I think they probably get something done down the road, but I can't see him going anyplace else.
It's going to be I think it's going to be year by year. I think for him at this age, he's going to go down the Patrice Bergeron route of going, all right, I'll come back next year, 1-year deal. All right, I'll come back next year, 1-year deal. all right, I'll come back. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Until he eventually calls it quits, which I think will be in the next 3 years. Um,
Yeah, I'd imagine. What
I
was he,
think so. It'll
36?
be what's up?
Is he 36?
I think so. I believe Brad's
Okay.
36. I'll do my
Yeah.
research on him real quick. Let me see. Let me see how old he
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I think he
Uh,
is.
Brad Marchand. He is. The NHL app's gonna tell me. He's 36. He turned 36 in May. So by the time he
Oh,
retires, he'll probably be like 39, which is going to be older than what Bergeron was when he retired. I think, what I'm going to say? I think he'll have a second ring by then too. I think
oh,
the Bruins are going to win the Stanley Cup in the next couple of years. It might not be this year, but as long as Swayman gets a contract, if they keep Swayman around and they constantly are improving their team, I think there might be a second ring for the black and gold coming up soon in this 21st century. I think there might be a seventh cup coming our way. I have a feeling. I think
man,
adding Lindholm and Zadorov's really going to help out your chances too.
I'd be very happy to update my banner back here if I needed to. I'd be
Oh
very,
yeah.
very happy for that.
Yeah, you have to put on like in like black tape 2025 or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, like
Yeah,
put some electrical tape on there or something.
right or something. Yeah.
Well, kind of last big question about the team and the structure of the team. We know Lindholm is here, Patra healthy. How are we down the middle today?
Better than last year, that's for sure. I think we're much better than last year. Um, Look, Elias Lindholm is going to help out your team at the faceoff dot. I just think they are, and I think it's going to help you. I think it's going to help you at the late faceoff dot. It's going to help you for some stability as a solidified number one center. Because I think Coyle or Zacha last year they kind of swapped that role around of who was the 1C, who was the 2C. I did like they were both fine, but like I wasn't really like convinced either of them were the guy. Elias Lindholm is the guy. Um, Coyle being the second line center is always a good thing. I think Zacha shifting back to the wing is good because that's going to improve his game. Patra is going to be better at the dot this year. Apparently, he worked on his faceoffs a lot during development camp and in training camp. He worked on the faceoffs a lot, which is a good thing. I think Beecher and Kastelik are going to be good on the fourth line as well. They can rotate guys. They can work on matchups like left side, Beecher can take the draw. Right side, Kastelik can take the draw, and that works. And that's why the Bruins have done so well at that because, I mean, if you look up and down the roster, they're doing that already with Zacha and Elias Lindholm. Zacha taking left side draws and Lindholm taking right side draws. Second line, not as much. Third line, it's all Coyle on the second line. Third line, Patra and Frederick, and then Geekie too. If it's Patra, Frederick, Geekie on that third line, Morgan Geekie can slide in and take Patra's spot if Patra's struggling at the dot. In comes Morgan Geekie, no problem. Fourth line, Beecher and Kastelik. It works. Versatility on your lineup is going to help you win the Stanley Cup. It's just going to. Because that's actually one thing they have over the 2011 team is actual versatility on their faceoffs. Having multiple guys on the same line that can take draws on 3 of 4 lines, that's going to help you out.
Yeah, so many guys have had that experience, being in the middle of the ice. So I think that's going to be a real key for the team. And going back to Lindholm, I think this is a year because a lot of people kind of criticize the move and the money that he got, and he didn't have a great year last year. But you go into last year, take us back 12 months ago with Lindholm. He's in Calgary. He knows the team is going to be at best a fringe wild card team, maybe, but they really didn't have that expectation. He knew he was probably going to get traded. That's going to weigh on you as a player. And I have no doubt that that probably affected him a little bit in terms of the performance. And we know that Calgary was kind of a mess last year anyway. Makes the trade over to Vancouver, takes Vancouver a while to figure out where to put him, how to use him. They finally figured it out in the playoffs a little bit. But like you said, this year, he is the number 1C. He's got certainty. He has clarity. He's got the contract. He knows he's in Boston. His family can kind of lay roots now. So I think there's a whole lot of things not playing on his mind this year, and should make him. I just think make him a better player this year.
Yeah, I mean, if Elias Lindholm, he had a lot of pressure on him last year because he had that pending trade in his mind.
Mhm.
Then it happens, and he never really figures it out. He never really figures out what he's going to do in Vancouver because he was still an expiring UFA. They never engaged in contract extension talks, not once with Vancouver. Neither did Zadorov either. They were both out. This was going to be a rental to try to win the cup, and honestly, I don't blame them because Vancouver was good. They got better, and they still didn't get far. Like to me, Lindholm and Zadorov having those long-term contracts at that money is going to give them stability. The fact that their UFAs gets them off their, gets that off their mind. I think Lindholm having stability. Hey, I'm the guy. Zadorov is, I'm the guy. That's going to help you out. I don't care what anybody says. That's going to help you out. That's going to make you a better hockey player. Lindholm's going to be actually going to be able to focus more on his offensive game, work the bumper and the power play, work the face-offs, unleashing that lethal snapshot that he has. Zadorov being back to the physical big man that he is, being able to move the puck up the ice. Like he has done that pretty well so far in this preseason, is moving the puck up the ice in 2 of the 3 games that he's played in. He's actually looked pretty good defensively and moving the puck towards the offensive zone. Let them go. And the fact that they're not, worried about a contract anymore is going to make them better hockey players. I think every hockey player has that same exact feeling, and every exact sports athlete, by the way, who are under contract, and so it's the final year of their deal. They're trying to prove themselves. I think Lindholm and Zadorov can now relax. They have money. They have term. They have money. Let's go out there and play some damn good hockey. Trying to get some bling. Trying to get a ring here. Trying to get a championship to your achievements page. I think they're trying to do that for sure.
Let's hope so. And to that point, where do you have this Boston Bruins team in the Atlantic, and where do you have them in kind of that big Stanley Cup playoff picture?
It changes my answer completely. If they have Swayman, they're winning the Atlantic. I've said that before. I've said that. I'll say it again. If they have Swayman, they're a better team than Florida. They just are. They have more forecheck than Florida does. They have more physicality. They're better at the dot than Florida is. And they're actually better than Florida in a lot of capacities. I'm not saying that as a diehard Bruins fan, as a biased Bruins. I'm saying that I'm comparing both teams. Florida losing Brendan Montour is going to hurt them a lot more than people realize it's going to. That's going to suck for Florida. Their defense looks paper thin. The Bruins defense looks rock solid. Offensively, yes, they have Barkov and Tkachuk and Reinhart. The Bruins have Lindholm and Pasternak, and they have Coyle, and they have Trent Frederick and Morgan Geekie. They're going to be better. They're just going to be better. I think the physicality is going to outshine that. I think they're going to outshine Florida physically, defensively, and I think they're going to finally figure out Bobrovsky. I think these two teams are destined to meet again in the playoffs this year, and I have Boston beating them. I just think it's going to be a third time's a charm thing. They finally figured out what they needed, and they figured it out, and they got it. They're going to get it done. Where they're going to finish without Swayman, not a playoff team. I don't know. And I'm saying this, I don't trust Korpisalo and Bussy as a goalie tandem. That's going to screw you up. I don't care what anybody says. Look, Brandon, I don't trust a guy who came off the worst season of his career and another guy who has never played a game in the National Hockey League as a goalie tandem. I just don't. And it's not a knock at them. But look, if you have a solidified starter in Swayman and you have a Korpisalo who can get you 30, 35 games, or Bussy the same, you're going to be in a better spot. That's just my thoughts on that. If they might make the wild card if they're lucky, goaltending is going to be the make or break thing of this team. If you don't have a good goalie in net, you're not giving yourselves a chance to win.
Oh, 100%.
So
Yeah.
let's say Korpisalo has an okay year, but not great. Great. What are you going to do playoff time? You have a not so great goalie, and you have a guy who has never played a game in the National Hockey League going to be the backup in the playoffs. Great. First round exit again. And then you start over. So I am begging everybody involved, get this contract done, go out there and win the Atlantic. And I think they're going to give themselves a really good chance to win the Stanley Cup. I really, and it'll also extend their cup window too. It will.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you that if Swayman's not around, they definitely fall. But I do think that core is still quite solid, and they may have to outscore their problems a little bit. If Korpisalo is your number one. But I kind of put them more in that wild card spot without Swayman. With Swayman, and I actually just did my season predictions last night on this channel. I do have Boston winning that Atlantic over Florida, Toronto third, and I do have Boston beating Florida in that second round, losing eventually in the Eastern Conference Finals to the New Jersey Devils.
Ooh, really?
Went off the sheet a little bit on that one. Yeah, I like Jersey this year. I like Jersey this year.
I'm not so sure about that. I mean, what did Jersey? What do they do? They got
Pesci, they got Dylan, and they got the goalie Marchand.
Is that enough though? Because their offense, I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, they got Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier.
If Hughes, it's a lot of ifs. It's if Hughes can stay healthy.
And that's my big question mark with New Jersey. Can they keep their guys healthy? Yeah. I'm not so confident about that. I don't think New Jersey is going to be all that. I don't think they're going to be. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make the conference final. You have them beating the Rangers?
I do. I think their speed, if they're healthy, I went back and forth on it. I'll be honest. I was sitting here last night like Rangers, Devils, and I'm like, you know what? I just think their speed is going to maybe be a little too much for an older New York Rangers team. And we'll see, right? And I think Timo Meier could have a real strong season. I think he's getting settled in there in New Jersey. I'm high on him this year.
And that's fair. I think the Devils are going to be better. I'm not saying they're going to miss the playoffs. I just don't see them as a conference finals team. I do see them meeting the Rangers in the second round. I do see that happening. I don't see them making the conference final. I don't know. I think we're destined to meet the Rangers in the conference final, and it's going to be a 7-game series regardless. It's going to be one of those barn burners. I couldn't tell you who's going to win. If they beat the Rangers, they're winning the Stanley Cup.
Quite possibly.
I don't think there's any team in the West. If they can beat the Rangers, I don't think the Oilers are much of a match. I think, they have McDavid and Draisaitl. That's going to kill you. But the Rangers have more of a complete offensive team than Edmonton does. Still to this day. I mean, they have Hyman now, and they have Nugent Hopkins and Evander Kane. But the Rangers, they have Kreider, Zibanejad, Panarin. Let's see, who else they got? They got, even from the blue line, Adam Fox putting up some decent numbers last year. They have Lafreniere, Hedl. Like, it's going to be tough. If they can beat the Rangers, they can beat the Oilers. Because I think the Oilers are the team out of the West again.
Yeah, you got the Oilers. I have Dallas. That doesn't
surprise me either.
I have Dallas, Edmonton in that final kind of a rematch, and I just think that Dallas has been right around it for the last 3 or 4 years. Had some of these kind of just frustrating losses. I think they find a way to put it all together this year. I actually have them winning the Stanley Cup this year. That's my official Stanley Cup pick.
You have Dallas?
I do.
Okay.
Dallas, New Jersey. I think Dallas smokes New Jersey once they get there. I think that the Devils will have to expend so much energy getting through the Rangers, getting through Boston. And then by the time they get to Dallas, I don't know how much they'll have left in that tank, but that's where I'm at. And to your point, you said a little while ago, I do think Boston's going to have one in them. I don't think it's this year. I think, like you said, 2 or 3 years down the road, I think the Bruins are hoisting the cup again.
Yeah, I think. Well, hey, I think they gave themselves more of a chance to win the cup this year with Lindholm and Zadorov than they had in previous years.
Absolutely.
As long as Swayman signs. If Swayman signs and everything all is right, the Bruins have a complete team. You have the goaltending, you have the offense, you have the defense. I think you're going to have a chance to win. I really think you do because you have the right balance of speed and size now. Last year was mainly speed based. Now you have both. And I think you can win the cup with that. Florida had it. Vegas had it. Tampa had it. Now you have it. Put it all together. Go win the Stanley Cup. I think they can do it. I really think they can.
Well, I hope you're right, and I hope I'm wrong. I think that would make everybody, any Bruins fan, super happy. I would be so happy to be wrong. And I could go back to my ex-wife and be like, you know what? You were right. I'm always wrong. This is great. So have a little fun with that. Gotta have a little fun, guys, right? Come on.
Of
Um,
course.
I'm quite sure she's not listening, so it's
Um,
okay.
that's all right.
Well, Sam, thank you so much for this chat today. Good to catch up with you. Tell people a little bit about what's coming up tonight over at Black and Gold.
Tonight, we are having episode 365, the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. It'll be up on our channel. We're going live on YouTube tonight. We're going to be discussing a lot of different things. It's going to be me, Mark, and David Collins. He's been on the show before. He'll be back with us. We're going to be discussing Mark Kastelik and how much of an impact he's had in the preseason. We're going to be discussing kind of more of the same what we're discussing today here on this show. Of course, when we talk about Swayman, I'm sure that's going to be coming up eventually. We'll be talking about some surprises for the NHL roster, and it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be our final podcast before the season starts, and it should be a blast. Should be a blast tonight. We'll be live at 6:00 on YouTube tonight.
Yeah, guys, go check all that out. They do a great job over there. So, Sam, thank you again, and thank you everybody for watching today. If you do like what you're hearing, please don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down below. And until next time, be kind, show love, and God bless.